Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Julie. This is my husband Ryan. We did an episode not so long ago all about immigrating to the US from South Africa and raising kids. And a lot of you guys really loved that episode, so we thought today we would expand on what it's like. You move to a new country, you're all excited, the honeymoon is now over and reality sets in. We moved to the US over 15 years ago and we've been through some stuff. And so we thought we would talk about our experiences of moving, but then also what happens when you bring children into the mix. So whether you have moved with your kids or you move to another country or somewhere, honestly, that's very far away from where you grew up, it doesn't really matter. And now you have to create a life for yourself. This video is for you because there's a lot of lessons that come when you leave your comfort zone, I would say. So if that's something that's interesting to you, make sure you go ahead and subscribe down below. Give this video a big thumbs up so we can make more videos about immigrating or leaving your hometown and how you cope with it if this is a situation you find yourself in. Leave us a comment down below where you come from, where you live right now, and if you would ever consider leaving where you grew up. All right, so let's talk a little bit about our story. We moved about 15 years ago.
Wow.
We did the, what did you say?
Wow. It feels like yesterday, but it doesn't.
It does?
It's a long time ago.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. I mean, we were technically fully grown adults by that point, but I think we've changed and evolved a lot.
3 kids later.
3 kids later. We've lived in 3 different states, many different apartments and houses and things like that. Yeah, so we've done a lot of different things. I think when we first moved, we didn't have children. We just had the 2 of us, which definitely has its advantages to not have to move with kids. We were a lot more free. We could try and start to build our lives without having to think about dependence and other responsibilities. What do you think helped you in those initial years before we had kids to acclimate to a new country?
Well, I think I was pretty lucky in the beginning because I came here for graduate school, so I already had a place to go and people to meet.
I think that's my top tip when I tell people.
Yeah, I think it's always, and
having a spot.
Yeah, moving from graduate school to New York City, I think it was really good to kind of put yourself out there, join as many clubs or events as you can. I think it's even easier now with these like meetup apps, but a lot of it was joining work, meeting people at work, and then there are things like running clubs.
Yeah, I joined a running club. I did like sewing lessons at one point. And then obviously us both having jobs, you have an inbuilt social network and you spend a lot of time with your colleagues. So even if you don't have a great job, at least you have somewhere to belong. I think that's the thing when you come out of your comfort zone or out of a place where you just know everybody, you know everything, you're kind of just coasting along, and then you go and purposefully throw yourself into a situation where you know nobody. Whew, it's tough. But having a job, whether you're going to school, like having a place at a college or university, or having a job, internship, somewhere where people are expecting you to show up every day, I think is a really good, important hack. Never mind that you'll actually hopefully are making some money to survive and pay for your lifestyle. It's very tough when people move to a different country and they don't have a plan effectively, or they don't have a job or work lined up. I think it makes that really hard. But yeah, all those things that you said, like starting to build your community, build your networks, rebuild your life, and getting used to a new place. And I think when you're young adult, you don't have kids, it's very exciting. Like we call it like the honeymoon phase.
Yeah. And
so we probably were in the US for maybe 5 or 6 years before we had a baby. And how did that change things? Like in terms of, because I'll talk about what it's like for me as the mom, but how did you feel now raising a child in an environment that you didn't grow up in?
Well, I didn't really think about it much in the beginning because it was so overwhelming, the change, just having your first child.
Yeah.
And I think you slowly start to realize a lot of things you take for granted at home, like, the schools you went to, or the way your parents parented, or sort of the environment with which you were used to is no longer there or not there. And so you kind of have to adapt pretty quickly to this sort of changing society or whatever it is, right? So I think in the beginning you don't really notice it because you're keeping this little human alive. But once you start thinking about daycare and schools and whether you want a nanny or not, depending on if you both work, you always will look at it through the lens of how you were brought up, right? So that's when I started to really realize, wow, like, you know, when I was young, did my mom or dad do this, or is this okay that we're doing this? And I think that's a lot of sort of the change in identity you have in a foreign country, right, in terms of how you want to raise your children.
Yeah, and we've spoken about our struggles, and I'll link those videos down below, specifically going from 1 child to 2 kids and raising kids in a foreign country. Obviously, we don't know what it's like to raise them in South Africa, where we're both from, but, you know, we have friends there with kids. We have a basic idea, and some things are the same and some things are very different. Like you mentioned, schools. Like a lot of South Africans, I think, would want to send their kids to the schools that they went to. The sports in the US versus South Africa are very different. And whether you agree with it or not, or whether you like it or not, a lot of people try and emulate the aspects of their childhood that they enjoyed onto their children. So they kind of project it onto their children. And I think it's a stat, like, I don't know if it's for all kids, but definitely for little boys. It's whatever the dad watches on TV, sport-wise, is usually what the child will gravitate towards in sports. And that happened for us. I mean, Ryan is really into tennis, and our son is really into tennis, and tennis is basically the only sport that we watch. But I bet if we were in South Africa and he was spending more time with my dad, who's really into cricket and rugby, he would be more into those things. So yeah, I think also what came to focus for me as the mom, never mind the just like the obvious of not having my mom or my family close by to help me on a day-to-day level. Not to say that they would help me always. I mean, that's the thing. You romanticize the greener grass, right? So, you know, when I was really struggling with a little baby, I'd probably in my head think, you know, my mother's going to move in with me or something. But realistically, that's probably not what either of us would have wanted. I mean, if it was a real crisis, sure. But that probably wouldn't be exactly how it would pan out. Plus, if we lived in South Africa, we could still live in South Africa, but we might live a plane ride away. We might not live down the street from one another. So unless you're really in the same neighborhood or in the same city as your family, you're not going to see them every day or even every week. You know, you'd have to make an effort to go and see them. So I think there's that element too. Like, the world is a big place, and even if you live in the same country, like if you live in the US and your family's from California and you live in New York, that is by no means convenient. So anyway, I think there's that element of romanticizing that what life would be like if you hadn't left. But when you're in the thick of it and just wanting that familiarity of your home and your family and all that kind of thing, I think it's really tough.
When you have a child, it's also a really great excuse to meet more people, you know, join mom's clubs or dad's clubs. And very often, typically where in the country you've moved to, you're likely going to meet new parents from other countries, and that's always a great way to kind of have a shared experience with new people that you meet, right? In terms of, and we had a lot of those. I think New York City's
specifically very good for that.
Very easy to do that.
Yeah.
But even then, I think it's a good way to, you know, continue to meet people and have a common ground with how to bond, right? So I would always put yourself out there, which is hard because you're kind of overwhelmed by having a new baby and new child.
Or just having moved with kids and like feeling stressed.
I always kind of felt at the times when I kind of was like, oh, I should go out and go make an effort. It was always the right thing. Because you always get to meet cool and interesting people, and very often we're all struggling with the same things, which is like how to integrate and connect with people in a new country.
I think New York specifically, and if there's a way to emulate that model in other parts, in other cities, New York specifically is great for meeting people because most of the people are not native New Yorkers. They have all come for work or opportunity or school or something. So everybody's kind of from somewhere else. There's that element to it. And the way that people live in apartments, you have an automatic community built in. Now that we live in the suburbs, I really understand what people mean about sort of being lonely. Like, everybody's in their own little house, and it's not as easy to just bump into people or be codependent on them in any shape or form. Like, you really have to make more of an effort, and it's obviously wonderful to have more space and to just experience a different type of living and maybe more privacy, and you're not like listening to grandma next door bang the ceiling with a broom or something because the guy upstairs is his music really loud or something. There's obviously pros and cons to apartment living or community-based living, but I think when you're from a different place, that New York model was really good for us.
Yeah.
We kind of just stumbled into it because of jobs. We didn't purposefully seek out to live in New York, but I think looking back, we made a lot of close friends in our building, like on our floor, like friendships. And this is the thing when you move, you know, people are there friendships are often based on convenience, like location. You just meet people and you need some of those friends, because we have a lot of friends all over the world, but they're not convenient friends. You know, they're not people you're going to bump into because they're in different countries. You really have to make an effort to go and see them and maintain those friendships. And when you move to a new place, you need local friends that there's no barrier for you guys to hang out. And that's why joining clubs, joining communities, it doesn't have to be something fancy like a country club or anything. I mean, you can do that if you want to, but it could literally be like, I joined a running club. I also wanted to say, before we had kids, we got a little dog, and a lot of the friends we made initially in New York outside of work were through our dog, which is kind of the same model as a kid in a way, because we took her to doggy classes and we made a few friends like that. And then when you have children, you make friends through school. So getting involved in school, getting involved in clubs and community activities. These are ways to start to forge friendships and relationships that you are lacking when you move to a new place. So what do you think has been a positive about moving? Like, I believe that actions speak louder than words. So if it was better to move back, we would have probably done that. What have you gained from moving?
Well, I think you gain just a broader worldview. I think it's always as fundamentally exciting to be in a new location and experience new cultures. I'd never been in the US before I'd moved here, so it was all fun and exciting. And I think you just get natural opportunity for them to, for your children to meet new and dynamic and exciting people, right? So I think you get to build a rich tapestry of friends, and I really love that.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's some inherent thing in each of us to explore. You know, humans have been exploring and traveling in whatever capacity technology has allowed them throughout history. And at least for us, and I think a lot of our peers, once you finish high school, maybe you finish university, that young adulthood, there is like this itch to discover and explore new things. I think it's natural and healthy that you kind of want to move away from your family of origin, not necessarily to leave them forever. And often people do return when they have kids because they realize how hard it is and how much they appreciate the family help and support. But it's inherent in us to want to try new things, literally expand our borders. And I think it provides our children with a subliminal message of independence, autonomy, resilience, exploration, experiencing different cultures. You know, we've tried as much as possible, and this might be helpful if you are struggling with now the honeymoon period for you is over and you're in this new place, you've made these massive life decisions and you're like, what did I do? I think we try and maintain a tie to South Africa for our children. We have provided them with the opportunity to go and live and work there if they ever wanted to. We watch sometimes like South African sports, big sporting events like the Rugby World Cup. We watched together as a family. We all had the jerseys. I try where possible. It's more difficult in the US definitely than in a place like the UK or even Australia to find South African food, but I'm noticing it more and more, and there's more and more South Africans popping up around us. So if we can find other South Africans, that's even better. We try to go back to South Africa. We don't do it as much as I would like because it's so expensive and so far, but we try and go back sort of once. At one point we were going back once a year, which is a lot, but now I think it's more like once every 3 years. But my parents come and visit us. My sister has moved a little bit closer, so we try and see her and she comes to us. So we try and keep the family as connected as possible without us actually all living in the same place. And, you know, I think there's some element when you move. I've had friends in the past that have told me that they would move from where they grew up, but they can't leave their families. And I think that's a nuanced thing. I mean, there's many reasons why you cannot leave your family. You could be caring for a parent. You could be financially dependent on them for whatever reason. Once you have children, I think it becomes even more difficult. If you have family that's very involved with your kids and very helpful, why would you want to give that up? Yeah. But if you as an individual, you as a couple feel like you should be in a different place, or you wanted to challenge yourself and live somewhere else to just experience a different worldview, see how people think. We mentioned this in another video, but because we are culturally, or the way I see myself is like, I'm culturally South African. You know, I left South Africa when I was 25, 26 years old, and I feel very strong ties to the country. Because of that, we come from a different perspective. We parent in a different way. We raise our children slightly differently, and I choose to think that that is a good thing. Like, it's a richer way to bring them up because they're coming, you know, it's like if you have two parents and one is from one type of one nationality and another one's from a different one, or you speak multiple languages in a family, you bring something different to a child's experience, which I think can enrich them. But I've had friends that will not move from their families or leave their families because they're afraid. They don't think they could do it. They think it would be too hard. They don't want to go through the pain. And that's also human nature. We don't change unless we're forced to most of the time. You have to decide to change or you have to be forced to change.
Well, what's your advice? Do you think they should maybe go try it out for a year or two and see what it's like and kind of push themselves to get some change? A change is as good as a holiday, is what they always say.
I don't know.
Right?
I think change is inevitable in life. And I personally believe that we're here to grow and learn individual lessons. Like we each are on our own path, and that's why we are given unique challenges. And if they are supposed to learn something that they would maybe be able to learn through moving, as an example, if they don't decide to make the move, God, the universe, will decide for them. Like a job opportunity will come up that they absolutely cannot turn down, or things will get so bad in their home that they will have to leave, or something will happen where they're forced to face their fears of change. I mean, I'm in a slightly different stage of life now where I'm like, would I leave and uproot my kids? That's a little bit of a different story. But even then, like your children will be resilient based on how resilient you are. And, you know, I've heard of families where they will take the kids out of school and I heard of this one specific family, they took their children out of school, like elementary age kids, so probably, I don't know, 8, 10-year-old children, and they drove from Cape Town to Cairo, something like that, something crazy like that. Crazy. And so imagine the experience that the children are having by not having your conventional suburban lifestyle. And so, I mean, I think on the balance, I'd have to look at the whole thing, but I would move. I mean, I've always told you, like, if you had an opportunity through work or something, see, I'm not prepared to just do it myself because I know how hard it is. I've done it before. I feel like we've earned our stripes.
Yeah.
We've moved multiple times, and not just like a small move, but I think I've always said to you, like, if you had a job opportunity and they were like, go to Hong Kong for a year or go to Europe for a year, I would 100% do it. Even now I would do it. Yeah. If they were going to organize things for me.
Yeah, of course.
So if they were going to like find us a place to live.
Do all the hard parts.
Yeah, if they were going to find us a place to live, if it made sense financially, if we could maintain our house here and then go and live overseas in a little apartment for a year and learn to speak a different language and experience a different culture, rip the kids out of school, like I would do it. Sorry, kids, but I would.
I think it would be phenomenal for them. They would get to learn again.
So let's manifest that.
Yeah, let's manifest it.
You don't want to move, though.
Brian
is the type of person that if we go to a restaurant, he will order the same thing every time he wants to go to the same restaurant. I want to go to a different restaurant and order something different. So I think it's also really based on your personality. And as I get older, maybe I get a little bit less courageous, but I would still do it. If it made sense and if things were kind of organized for me, I would take the opportunity because you just never know if you'll ever get that opportunity again. Yeah. And I mean, my parents have told me how they've had opportunities that they didn't take. And there's always this thing at the back of your mind of like the road not traveled. Yeah. So, you know, even if we had the opportunity or if Ryan was willing, which I doubt he would be, but to move back to South Africa for a little bit and let our kids experience South Africa and see what that would be like, I would probably do that too.
Well, you'd up for anything. If someone organizes it for
If someone organizes it for me. No, I mean, I could organize it. Yeah. But I mean, I'm not going to go and we're not going to randomly move to like Hong Kong. I don't know why I use that as an example, but let's just say Hong Kong.
You never know. It depends what you manifest, right?
Yeah, and I'm really good at manifesting, so we shall see. But yeah, so we just wanted to share a little bit more about our journey and how we know it's really tough to move. And if you're in this situation, hang in there. Something else I wanted to say is that I think people gravely underestimate how long it takes to actually feel more settled into a place, and they give up before they've really given it the good old college try. Like they just give up way too soon, and you can't just erase decades of foundation and experience in a place that you've lived in and expect the new place to satisfy all those needs. There are really pros and cons to every country and town and place and situation that you live in. So if you find yourself in a situation where you've made the decision to leave your country of origin, you're now in a new place, and you feel lonely, you feel stuck.
Honeymoon is over.
The honeymoon is over, this poor honeymoon. Don't give up. Give yourself a real opportunity to put down roots, even if they're kind of shallow roots to start with. I always say that when you're stuck, and I tell this to clients, I tell this to myself, I tell this to you, when you are stuck, you have to take action, even if it's really small. You have to get into motion. So maybe if you're feeling exceptionally lonely, maybe that's going online and joining a club where you can meet up, doing something that you all enjoy, and you're probably not going to want to do it. I think that's another misconception. It's like you're like, well, if I wanted to do this, I would be excited about it. I would feel like doing this. No, you're probably not going to want to do it. I think most people that work out, a lot of the time, they don't want to do it, but they feel 1,000 times better once they actually get out and do it. And unfortunately, you can't really say that it's the place's fault if you haven't tried to connect and make friends with people. Get a dog, and then you're forced to go outside. You're forced to meet people. I'm not even joking. Like, this is a thing that's recommended for older adults is to get a dog, because it means that they're forced to go out and walk, and like then inherently you meet people.
Yeah, I always think whenever I've been homesick or like wanted to throw in the towel, I always ask myself the question: Am I making the right effort? How much of it is me versus the actual place? And usually the answer is me. I'm not really putting myself out there or giving it enough of a try, right?
I mean, we could have gone home several times, got there and been like, what the hell did we do?
Yeah, exactly.
Because at the end of the day, home is what you make of it. A home is really just an ethereal concept. You know, it's not a physical place. And so it's really up to you to make the effort and try. It's not really the place. You're blaming the tools and not yourself, I guess. Yeah. So I just think if you are in the trenches, hang in there. If you're looking for support with parenting and transitions and that kind of thing, that's something that I specialize in, helping parents go from feeling overwhelmed, unsure, not being able to connect with their intuition, because so much of it is about that inner knowing that we all have, and helping them to feel more settled, thrive, be confident in their decisions with their families. So if that is something that you're interested in, make sure you click the link down below. There'll be more details there. And if you stuck with us for this long, I would so appreciate if you subscribe to my channel, give this video a thumbs up. And as I said at the beginning, let us know if you have any specific questions regarding immigration, if there's something that you would ever consider, and where in the world you're tuning in from. I would love to know. And with all of that said, we can't wait to see you in our next video.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Hello, you guys. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Julie. This is my husband,
Ryan.
Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Julie. This is my husband,
Ryan.
I'll just
But I don't know what you want.
Yeah, no, I'll say your name. I've like very much lost my train of thought, so I can't remember what I was gonna say.